Welcome to the Sports Show with Bob Spino. It's NHL Finals and NBA Finals time. Bob, what's you getting a little nervous here? We got Celtics down 3-2.
I know I was on the phone with you last night. Boston actually took a lead. But you know what? When they started to pull away in the third, they were up by 5. And then, the clutch guy and Curry, as good as he is, he's not the clutch guy. It was Clay. And they were complaining, he didn't make this and he didn't make that. He just started bagging threes, kept the game close. And then Poole hit a shot or two. And I got lucky. When he hit that shot at the end of the third quarter at the buzzer, I knew. I go, Boston's not going to win. And they didn't. But I do think they're going to win game 6. It's going to go back for 7. But I said it a couple of games ago. The team that's going to win game 4 is going to win this. And Golden State won game 4. If Boston had won, they would have been up 3-1, and this thing would have been over. But it's going to come down to a game 7. I am a little nervous. I don't really want to watch a game 7. I will because it's Boston. But game 6, I think Boston will just beat them. I don't even think Golden State cares all that much. They know they can take them home and finish them. But you never know once it gets to that game 7. You just never know. So,
yeah, if I'm Golden State, you throw the trophy on the plane. You worry about the celebration later.
Right.
You don't want to take a chance with game 7.
No, you don't. No, right. I mean, they're going to try to play. But Boston's going to come out like fire because they have no choice. Now they really are against the wall. I mean, so, everybody says, this team's against the wall, but they really are. So I think they blew it. I mean, they're up 2-1, and that game 4 was at home for them, and they just didn't win it. And, you can say whatever you want. Look, I understood Boston was 8-2, and I can't believe, they were 8-2 before game 4 because no team ever wins that many road games. And, but I said sooner or later it's going to catch them because the home is the home is the home. No place like home, So, and it did. And now they're 8-3. And see, the thing, what the funny thing about this is, you can sit there and go, and they're doing it on the other shows. Oh, Clay was this and Curry was that the last time. But they never say, well, they were home. Why? Because that's boring and quick and nobody will listen. But the home means everything. None of that Clay and Curry and Tatum didn't play good garbage means anything at times. And the later it goes, and this late in the championship, it's more about the home. And, you could just take that and, my friend called me. He's like, I won't answer him. He's calling me. He's like, oh, I don't think you're going to win game 6 because Curry didn't even play good. It doesn't matter. Curry can have 100 points in the next game. We'll beat him 102-100. The game's in Boston. That's all that matters. And like, he doesn't understand that. A lot of fans don't get it, and a lot of media people don't get it either. But that's what I think. And you must be a little nervous with Tampa Bay getting there. So,
well, I mean, that's the cusp of the matter, Bob. This is another episode with our dynamic duo tonight. We're going to have Mr. E and E-Kip lay it down when it comes to this potential dynasty of Tampa Bay. They did what they wanted to do, but it may have come at a price of getting them another title because the Rangers needed to just be gone. But now if the Lightning win, that's 3 in a row, and that's knocking on the door of the Islanders. So I'd like to see Tampa just be extinguished now, and then they can win next year, and then it's not a streak. Right. But if they get to 3, I'm going to be concerned because that's concerning. A rock solid team,
right?
And I don't think they're that old, are they?
No. Well, the Rangers keep giving them players every year. A lot of those guys are on the Rangers.
So yeah, let's get a little inside take on what we're looking at here at this potential dynasty budding as we speak. Tampa Bay Lightning are just on a roll, and you cannot ever let them off the hook. And as we saw, the Rangers blew it. And now we have Mr. E-Kip to join us because E-Kip was not gonna do the show if the Rangers made the finals. So we're really glad Tampa won. So we got E-Kip with us here tonight. Right. Can you hear us, E-Kip? Are you with us?
Yeah, hello guys. I'm not using my computer for some reason. It's updating. This computer sucks anyway. So on my phone.
Yeah, right.
No, you're coming in clear and loud.
We can hear you fine.
E-Kip.
Where is the other Eric from Tampa? Oh, look at that.
I was expecting him to show up first and then you roll in. But here you are. Tell me your maybe give us a recap of the Rangers' defeat. Kind of swept in 4 after winning 2.
Sure, I'd love to. If you remember, the Knicks won the first 2 games against the Chicago Bulls in 1993, who were going for their three-peat in the conference finals. And I remember as a Knicks fan, up 2 games. I was young, but they won the first 2 games at the Garden, and we thought this was the year. And they went to Chicago. They won 2. Not that crazy. Jordan lit them up. But the 5th game, they had a really good shot to win the Knicks, and it was the Charles Smith game where he missed he was fouled 5.
Yeah.
And then they lost the 6th game in Chicago, of course.
Can I chime in on that, because I remember that one really, really well, because I'm a Celtic fan and I detest the Knicks. At that time, I used to hang around with a friend who loved the Knicks like you do, and he was a real tough guy to deal with. And I was sick at the time, and I came down the basketball courts and he was playing, and he was bragging about the Knicks and how they're going to beat the Bulls. And I said, I know you're up 2-0, and I expected it, because that's what the home team does in the NBA. I go, but as far as I'm concerned, you're down 3-2. And he goes, why? Why do you say that? I go, because the Bulls are going to beat them the next 2 games, because it's in Chicago. And I go, and you just better hope Jordan doesn't steal game 5, because he's good enough to do it. And they did. And from, I think it was 6 minutes into the 3rd to 6 minutes into the 4th, Jordan was the only one that scored except 1 foul shot by Scottie Pippen. And they beat you in that game. And it was Charles Smith, actually, not Oakley, who missed the layups. And it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And that year was your best chance, in my mind, because you were 38-3 at home. 38.
Yes. 3 losses at home, or 2 losses?
3.
It was unbelievable. And I remember game 6 was on a Friday night. It was, as a kid, it was a heartbreaking night to lose.
And when
I thought they had a good chance.
I knew it was over. And even in the first quarter of game 6, you were up at like 10. But I knew, because Jordan just started kicking in. And once Pippen hit that shot and he went like that with the one finger, my friend goes, I wanted to stick that finger right up his. I go, right. but I knew. And it was a great moment for me, because your Knicks beat my Celtics when I was a little kid, and I never forget.
Oh, come on. When did the Knicks ever beat the Celtics?
They did, in 1973.
Half a lifetime.
And they actually fixed the basket as well, which Phil Jackson bragged about. And they did a deflate game.
That was the one Knicks team they had that was really good, the early 70s.
Our team was 60. I'll tell you what, our team was 68-14. Okay. That was the best record that never won until the 73 Golden State win thing.
Yeah, well, this is one of the rare times I'm rooting for a Boston team. It's this series. One of the rare times.
The next year,
I don't hate the Celtics. I respect the Celtics. 17 titles.
Well, I got to tell you this. I'm going to tell you the story. The next year, okay, my brother got the job with the Milwaukee Bucks and talked Don Nelson into taking the head coaching job. Okay, and one day Nelly comes to my brother and goes, "You know what? We won a lot of titles in Boston, but the one that sticks with us still is the year when the Knicks knocked us off." And I was so depressed that year. I said, "God, as long as I live, don't ever let the Knicks win again. They've never won since." And we had one of your guys on my show. I had Henry Bibby on the show.
Yeah. Well, so that brings us to this series. Rangers, first 2 games at home, going up against a team that is going for 3. I don't think really anybody wants them to go for 3. I don't even think a lot of people.
What do you mean? We got someone right here that wants them
Somebody
to go for 3,
does.
right? Mr. E, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm straight.
How's it going, E?
They better win the 3rd, right?
You guys are amazing. You know how to win.
Well,
teams have let you off the hook, and you're still going.
Can I break down the series?
Break it down, E-Kip.
I think that's a good
Everyone's
start.
interrupting you, E-Kip. Break it down.
So going in, I knew that the crowd was I was very worried about the first game. Rooting against the Rangers, of course, because I knew they'd get that high, and there's such a young team. off that Carolina win. That Carolina win really upset me. I was so upset the next day at work. I didn't even want to be there. I didn't want to speak to anybody.
Was it true
And
you weren't coming out?
I had a good feeling that I think Tampa needs to split here because I know the Rangers are going to come out a lot of energy. And they won the first game. And I remember someone saying to me, "Oh, Tampa has to win the second game." I said, "I don't know. I think Tampa's probably going to lose the second game, but go home and win the next two." And then once they did that, I knew they were going to win the next two after that, even though Game 5 was very close. I don't know. Tampa they're not the Bulls. I'll tell you that much because they don't blow teams out. They make you gruel, they make you grind through. If you're rooting for them and if you bet on them, it's not like betting the Bulls back in the day.
But they still have Bull mentality. They know how to win. And
Edmund is a winner. And they've done this without Braden Point. That's the thing. I wouldn't have been scared as a Ranger hater if Braden Point was in. Him not being there, he's a monster in the post. He's one of the best postseason players of all time.
Let's talk
at this
about
point
that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
That's kind of key to the last two series, right? Point's been out, and so that severely limits the offensive capabilities of the Lightning, right? So rather than try and beat you with the run and gun game, they've got
they're playing man to man. Exactly.
Yeah, man to man. They've got to clog up the neutral zone and slow teams down through there. I mean, look, that's kind of the trap that New Jersey built, all those years ago. It's a modified version of that, and they've kind of turned executing it into, they're executing it at a very high level, right? So, and then you've got Vasilevsky behind that. So what gets through the team, it's going to have a hard time getting through him. And what we saw at the beginning of the Rangers series, I think, was just 9 days off between series for the Lightning, and I don't think they were really in the right headspace at the start of that series. But they're a team that really, in the first two games, they're going to analyze the opponent, and then figure out how to shut them down and past that point in the series. Now, I'll admit that I was worried, Game 3 when the Rangers go up.
It's funny. They made it 2-0, and a calm came over me for the first time in that series. Can you believe that? Because I didn't think the game was over because I knew Tampa was going to get their power plays. And then one. I thought they have to win it, and Palat kind of lifted them to the series through the series, that Palat goal in the end there.
Yeah, that was definitely a confidence and momentum builder. And this team, once they establish that momentum, it's really hard to get them off that momentum. Like just the mental state of the team is an incredible thing to me. And Bob, I know that you tend to favor offensive teams.
Yeah.
Your feeling is that offense wins.
Okay, my question is this though. I think you won that series in Game 3 because they had a lead in at the end of Game 3. Am I right? And you had to figure them out. Yeah, well, I know, but if you don't win that game, I don't think you win. I don't. They let you off the hook in that game. You would have won 4 in a row. That would have been really hard.
It was only 2-0. I mean,
it was already 2-0. But if they won that, it would have been 3-0. Because
I understand, but I didn't think Tampa was losing that game. They weren't going to lose that game. Just to put it that way. Just like the Bulls weren't going to lose. Just like the Bulls weren't going to lose Game 3 and 9-3.
No, and if the Rangers could have held on, I think that thing would have been over.
Do you agree? I mean, that's.
But that's the difference between the better team.
I know. I'm not saying you're not the better team at all. I get that totally. But what I'm saying is that turned the series around. Because if you had lost,
but I wasn't surprised Tampa came back. I was kind of expecting Tampa to come back and tie that.
I did too. I thought they were going to split the first two. I did.
Yeah.
But when it got to that point and it's late, in the third,
I understand.
Losing, that's a big turnaround. If you lose that Game 3, I don't know if you're coming back 4 in a row. You're good, so you could. But I wouldn't bet that.
It's a long shot. It's
a long shot.
But I mean, the better team came out on top, right? I mean, the team.
Yeah. Oh no, you're great.
Adapt to the conditions as they changed in the series, and
not only that,
it's not that Gallant is a bad coach. It's that Cooper plays these head games that are, above and beyond what other coaches manage. And I don't particularly understand that dynamic myself, but
it's working.
Yeah.
I also think they wore them down physically. The Rangers, first off, had played a lot of games, 20 games in 40 days, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And I think then, the big guys on Tampa Bay, Maroon, the Killorns, the Rudas on defense, Cernak, Dunn, I really think they wore them down. And as a young team, by the fifth game, they were kind of playing to Tampa's style more than the Rangers style, if you notice at the Garden.
Well, here's the thing with that, right? I think it's that they were forced to play Tampa.
They were. They had to have one man back at all times because the Tampa counterattack with that speed and that size is just it's a tough thing to stop.
And the thing is, all the Lightning have to do is clog up that neutral zone, cover man-to-man in the defense, make sure the swaps on defense are good. And then, from there, it's just counterattack,
And Anthony Cirelli.
Yeah.
Anthony Cirelli doesn't score a goal, but his presence was felt through the whole series on the defensive front.
That line of Hagel, Killorn, and Cirelli.
They played well.
Has been a real shutdown revelation this year.
Oh, absolutely.
I felt like going back to the Florida series, the last time I talked on this channel, I felt like the Lightning were going to win, but I didn't expect them to sweep. That was not at all expected. I figured Florida's offense would do more, and they just didn't have the opportunity, really.
I had really good seats to the Islanders this year. Sometimes my brother-in-law, he had 15 rows from the ice, and I saw just about every team in the NHL this season for the most part.
That's a good way to do it. I do it when I go to basketball games. I want to be there.
Florida they gave up too many scoring chances against a team like the Islanders. I just didn't like their game going into the playoffs. They really didn't. And I thought Tampa was going to win in 5 games. I really didn't think it was going to be that close to the series. So when they swept, I wasn't that surprised. And which brings me to my next point. Can anybody go into Tampa and win? Because Colorado, they're kind of being forced to win the first 2 games of the series. Am I right or am I wrong?
Right.
Yeah, in my opinion,
having that last line change at home is big for the Lightning. Not a lot of people are talking about that because it's not really a huge thing in a lot of games. But the way that they're matching up right now, that last line change at home really lets them set the tenor. And then they can play the physical guys against the offensive lines of the other team and wear them down. And that's where you really see things change in series. I think E-Kip, you hit it on the head when you were talking about wearing them down. And the thing is, Colorado hasn't played a lot of games, right? Colorado
very big
is big. They're healthy. They're strong. They're fast enough to compete. I would say their forward depth in terms of scoring is probably better than the Lightning, but I would say
the Lightning with Point, it's not even up for debate.
Right. Well, it looks like Point is probably going to play in the series, or at least that's the mind games that Cooper's playing right now. And that's a benefit, because
he'll play in the series. I don't think he's going to play game 1. We'll see, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But a lot of the people who are looking at analytics right now are picking Colorado because they've just put up excellent numbers,
They score a lot.
But they also, but they didn't face any really good goaltending on their run, right?
Hey, I agree with your point about having time off. The only time off is good is when you have a lot of injuries. And it's like that in any sport. You're not mentally ready for the next game. Physically, you might be, but mentally, you're not. It takes you a game to get into every new round you go. That's totally true. And I'm leaning toward you guys a little, but I do like offense, and Colorado has the home ice and they can score. But you guys know how to win. And I think that's why Florida didn't win,
And what about the defense
they never
and
done
obviously
anything yet.
goaltender? How about the defense and the goaltender? I think Tampa has a huge edge there. Coaching, also, they have an edge.
Right.
The only edge they don't have is that they don't have McKinnon and McCarr. But they have They have Hedman. They have that's their superstar.
I think if you look at Colorado as a whole, defense and offense included, right? I think Colorado comes out as an offensive powerhouse, right?
They are.
Their defense is mobile. It's going to create a lot of chances. It's an offensive style of defense.
Yeah.
If the Lightning can play their defensive game, and I think they have a better defensive game than Colorado, then it's going to come down to the last two series, the counterattacks, and which team counterattacks better.
See,
to me, anyone here that actually believes the Avalanche will win this series? Because I don't.
I think they can. I think it's gonna be really close, Rob. And you know what? Offense wins in hockey. It does, because defense is already built in, and you got a big guy standing around a little goal.
Not usually.
Yeah, really? Edmonton did, and they took you guys out when they stopped your streak, and they scored so quick you didn't know what hit them. Offense. See you later, Bob. I'm kidding. I'm right. Oh, did he leave me?
No, he didn't leave.
The Rangers didn't win. You can stay. It's okay.
Hey, and the Islanders beat the Rangers in '84, that year that you're talking about.
I got a question. You really weren't
glad
coming
to
on
hear that.
This thing? Is that true?
Excuse me?
Rob said you weren't coming on if the Rangers were in this thing. Is that true?
It's 100% true. Yeah.
It is true.
Yeah.
Wow.
True.
So I'm for one, I'm glad that.
I knew Tampa was winning. I knew after the fourth game Tampa was going to win the series, even though I was scared to death.
Right.
Yeah. Once they evened it up, it was over. I mean, there was no stopping them at that point.
The sixth game was a joke. It should have been 4 to 5 to 1. Tampa makes me sweat. They made me sweat through game 6 for no reason. That game should have been over after the second period. It's unbelievable. The Rangers actually, and I knew it 1-0. I'm like, Tampa's not scoring. The Rangers are going to tie this game, and they did. And the Rangers had no defense. They gave up a million 2-on-1s in that game, and they didn't have any legs left. It's unbelievable they were actually in that game, that it wasn't a blowout. It really was unbelievable.
I got to tell you, and I'm big on game sevens in every sport, but hockey is the one sport where it's not quite as big. So I'm out eating steak, and game 7 comes against Carolina, and I'm sitting there going, I got a feeling the Rangers are going to win this damn thing. And they put up the stat all time. It's like 117-78. The road team has won 78 times in game 7. And I'm like, that's not that big as compared to the other sports. And I'm like, I got a feeling the Rangers are going to win this damn thing. And they go on 2 power plays, I think in the first period, before you know it, boom, boom, 2-0. Just like that. And Carolina never recovered. I knew they were going to win that 7th game, just how they were playing.
I knew Carolina wasn't going to win every game at home. It's just bad karma to do what they did. In hockey, maybe in basketball, it work. It didn't work for the Houston Astros in the World Series winning. You're going to lose a home.
Basketball and football are the 2 biggest discrepancies when you're home. The home team has a big advantage. But the other sports, and by the way, guys, I want you to know, I heard Charles Barkley talking the other night, and he said by far the best playoffs of all sports are hockey.
Yeah, Barkley's
basketball's a joke.
And then a basketball fan at this point.
Huh?
He loved Barkley's a big.
You know what? He's tired of the clowns in the NBA. He's actually quitting TNT because they won't let him tell the truth. They won't. He said it. He goes, whenever I want to say something, they stop me. And he's getting sick of it. He really is. And he said everything I used to say. It's a 3-point contest now. They don't know how to play. These guys.
Oh, terrible.
Huh? Yeah, I know. He said what I said. I guarantee you that most of these guys in the league would have never been able to play when I was a kid. They would have got cut. They would have got cut.
Here's a point.
Yeah.
Going back to hockey, right?
Don't worry. I know what your big one.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? The analytics guys have always, at least for the past several seasons, loved Carolina. Carolina is an analytics dream of a team, but they don't make it past the second round. They haven't, in their time as an analytics champion.
Analytics is a piece of shit. That stuff.
And
don't worry, Bob. It's not an all kids show.
Okay.
And hockey means nothing. Hockey means nothing. The analytics. In baseball, I guess I could see it.
No, I can't either. We can get into that one night. I got a lot of issues with that. And we talked about that. I had Mike Socha on the show.
Oh, I have it too, but it's the only sport where I'd say, okay, let's talk about it. Other than in hockey, no, I'm not talking.
So as you guys see this play out,
my point is that, you know, the guys who pick the analytics team to win are, it's a coin flip, right? It's 50-50 whether they'll win. And right now, Colorado looks like, you know, the analytics, you know, the analytics guys love them because they score gaudy offensive numbers, and their goaltending and defensive stats haven't been as great, but because their offense is at such a high level, it's swinging the analytics numbers.
Hey, why don't we go around the room and say what excites us most about the upcoming series? I'll start.
And how you think it's going to play out?
Well, first, I'll get to that, but McKinnon. After that first step, he's a robot. He's a machine. I'm curious to see, and that place is going to get going in Colorado. It gets loud, okay?
It does.
I'm curious to see past the first game. I think how well the Tampa defense is going to be able to cover him. I think he'll have his moments, especially the first game. Colorado has to win the first game. If they don't win the first game, they're in trouble. Okay, they have a goaltender who I like, gets hot, Francouz, but he's a backup. He's not really, doesn't have a playoff experience. And when you match him up against Vasilevsky, tough to win a series like that. Tough. And a guy like McKinnon, McCarr, they really have to be the superstars that they are to win this series. They have some other guys, third liners on that team, Jost, Burakovsky, Nishnushkin, who was dropped by Dallas. They have a pretty deep roster there. It's not just the first two lines, and they're missing Kadri on their second line. He might be the best second line center in hockey. I saw, by the way, going back to Belmont and see the Islanders all season, Colorado and Tampa were definitely the two best teams that I saw. Colorado, Tampa, and I really can't count the Rangers because they played the Islanders with 8 Islanders out with COVID, so I really can't, but they look good as well. But Colorado, there was just something that they just flew on the ice. And Kadri live, I couldn't believe how fast he moved. And his presence in front of the net, and his playoff ability over the last 3 or 4 playoffs, he's got to be up there in points. I mean, it's going to be a big loss for Colorado not to have him with a broken thumb.
Okay, who wants to go next? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go next. You know, to me, the series, again, comes down to a great offense, which Colorado absolutely has, right? Through their lineup, they're built to burn, and they're built to score goals. So to me, for the Lightning to win, they need to play lights out defense. That's the way to win. And I think they can do it, but I don't think it's going to be easy.
No.
Right?
But Colorado has given up goals. You saw Edmonton, come out there, scored 5-6 goals on them. And, Colorado,
then what did Edmonton do after that?
Right. But Edmonton, they don't have a goalie or defense to even really get ice as the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I wouldn't compare those teams. I'm just saying that I've seen Colorado play a decent amount. They tend to sometimes dance around, and their defense and goaltending is really nothing to brag about. It's really nothing to brag about. They did get Manson was a huge pickup. I've been telling them for 2 years to get a big, tough defenseman. They got him. Is it enough? I guess we'll find out in, the next 2 weeks.
And Darcy Kemper is going to be back in the lineup for.
I don't think that's good. I think Francouz is the better goalie right now.
I agree, because
you'll see both of them.
Kemper is ice cold right now. Like, as far as goaltenders go, he seems to be struggling to stop a beach ball.
Right.
Okay, so, Rob, you wanna go? Your turn.
Sure, I'll kind of keep it a bit brief, likely. So you're looking at a situation. What's fascinating about this series is it represents the gateway to dynasty. Okay, Tampa Bay is knocking on the door of a historical relevant accomplishment here. So I think that injected into the finals really, really drives the excitement factor. Now, I'm in agreement with 2 points you all made, and that's the rust factor. I think the Avalanche have been off for quite some time. And I agree with you, E-Kip. The first game is the paramount game. I see a scenario that Lightning have won 4 in a row. They win that 5th, they're winning 8, and they get the 3rd. If they don't win that first game, then I think we're looking at an unpredictable situation. But I have no doubt that the Tampa Bay Lightning will win their 3rd title.
You think they're going to win?
Frankly, for beating the Rangers, I would be okay with it as long as they don't win 4.
Yeah, so would I. I just know they don't win 4.
So win 4.
I can see them winning it, and I can see Tampa winning in 7. If you go 7, I think Tampa's going to win. I think Colorado has to win this series in 6 or 5 games. I think the longer it goes, Tampa's got the advantage, in my opinion. They could go up, they could win a 7th game in a row, no questions asked.
Okay, it's my turn.
I'm going to circle back just for a minute before you take over, Bob. And I'm just going to bring up, how is Tampa going to do with the altitude difference?
Oh, that's a great point, Mr. E. Yeah, that's a significant factor.
That's something that I'm curious to see. It may become a non-factor, like it was in the 90s Wings series, but it could also be, a major factor in the home games for Colorado.
You know what? You're right, because nobody really talks about, like, they'll talk about that in other sports, in baseball, the Rockies have that advantage and the Broncos do, but they don't really mention that too much with hockey. But if you're not used to that, that can really wear a road team out. Now, this is what I got to say. Like, it's going to be a great series because you have the best high flying offense, and I love offense every sport. And I think it's really big for hockey, and it's totally overlooked. And offense is overlooked as a rule. And then you got a team that is a dynasty if they win this one. I guess you call it that, right? So, who's going to be like the new dynasty? I mean, if Colorado wins this thing, they may be able to win more than one time in a row. Maybe
not with that goalie. Not with that goalie.
Okay.
They're going to need goalie.
But they score so damn much. And 122 points for a season is a heck of a lot. And okay, maybe they'll have to get another goal along the way if something starts going south. But you know what? This is really going to be a fun series because Tampa is just so damn hard to beat. They barely made the playoff, I believe, at the end of the year. And
no, they got in. They got in very easy. Very easy.
But it seems like they're always let off the hook, and that's the one team you don't want to let off the hook because they're a champ, and you don't give a champ a second. You just don't.
Are they really let off the hook then? Are they really let off the hook? Are they really let off the hook then?
Yeah, I think you were let off the hook in the Ranger one because if they held on in that third period, the third game, you don't.
Do we recall the Toronto Maple Leafs? I believe they had a 3-2 lead in that series.
Right.
So,
and
they got it done. So both points have merit, I think.
Right, and it comes down to that. Like, who's going to do it? The champs, the better team, or this kind of upstart team that just scores a lot? And scoring does mean so much. I've said this, before, and I told Rob this a long time ago. The guy that said, good pitching and D stop good hitting was the baseball player with the Yankees years ago. And everybody took that as religion. It's not. Because if you listen to the second half of his comment, there was a second half. And he goes, and vice versa. Look, the Celtics won all those titles with Bill Russell and those guys. They always led the league in scoring, not defense. When they won, like with Marcus Smart, I can't stand it. It's like, oh, he's great. Big deal. We had Don Chaney as our defensive guard when I was a kid. We didn't win because of Don Chaney. We won because of Havlicek and White, JoJo, and all those other guys. And Russell and Cowens through the years. No. If you got to put the ball in the basket, you got to hit the ball over the fence.
I'd say, Bob, though.
I disagree. What about the 2 Giants championships with Eli? They didn't score that many points in those championship games.
I know, but you know what went wrong with that? First, despite that, they got lucky on a catch with a helmet.
It wasn't luck.
That was luck. That was luck.
Luck.
Lucky
Lucky should Dirk in the first period of Game 5. 2 shots beat him, and
And you know what else
That's
went wrong? That year, when they were scoring at will, New England all year, why did he go conservative on the first drive of the game and kick the field goal on fourth down when it was on like the 2-yard line? They could have easily have scored. That game would have been over right there.
Pat
right
scored
there.
a touchdown their first drive.
No, they didn't. They
First one. The first Super Bowl?
Yeah, when they were 18-0.
Super Bowl started, Giants, 10-minute drive. Smith had a terrible drop. They settled for a field goal, 3-0. New England comes back, 5-minute drive. They get a pass interference penalty, Pierce in the end zone, and they end up running it in and make it 7-3.
Yeah, when they were in that side of 5-yard line, why'd they kick a 3 though? That changed the game right there.
When
they did, they had the ball and they didn't throw it. They decided to kick
the game. It was 4th and 20, and Belichick went for it instead of kicking a field goal. But there was a time it was 4th and 20, and they went for it instead of kicking a field goal or punting.
Yeah, but why did the drive stall? And when it stalled, they did not go for it inside the 5-yard line. Why didn't they go for it on fourth down? With the offense they had that year, you couldn't stop them.
Which drive?
And despite all that, you had to win on the helmet.
There could be a bit of a discrepancy
one thing about
in the drives
Belichick,
here. I don't know if you're talking about
I remember
the
this game pretty good. I mean, that was a one.
No. The
game.
one thing about Belichick, for as great as he did have tendencies to go conservative too much. And with that offense, you never do it. You should never have done it. That year, no.
I think he was too cocky going into that game.
Cocky's one thing, but look, all year they were scoring it well. Nobody could stop them. Nobody. Why did they not go for that touchdown inside the 5? That cost them the game.
Even the Chargers.
That cost them the game.
I don't know.
And you know what? Offense wins. I'm telling you. And you know what? Are you a Yankee fan by any chance?
Yeah, I'm a bigger Giants. Bigger.
Okay. How do you think they won 27? Because they never really had all that kind of stud pitching. They're good, but not great. That's right. It was always about their.
But the thing is, Bob, are we possibly looking at an apple and oranges deal? I mean, the goalie position in hockey is a paramount thing, akin to like the pitcher. I mean, the defensive situation is different.
Those Yankees always had great pitchers. Andy Pettitte, Cone. They had Clemens. They had David Wells. They had El Duque. They had a hell of a pitching staff.
No, but you know what? They also led the league in comeback wins, which means your pitching ain't doing good.
Right.
You're going to bail you out. He's going to bail you out.
Timely hitting in the postseason. Pitching and
timely hitting. They always led the league in team home runs every year. And they're doing it again this year. And that's why they're winning. Because you know what?
Not in 96 and 98 and 99.
I remember 96. In 96, they didn't have that many good pitchers. I remember talking to a friend. He goes, Bob, I know they can hit, but I don't know about their pitching. They're not going to be able to do it. And you know what? They beat a team that always had pitching, the Braves, for years, and could only win one freaking time because they didn't hit good enough. It's about hitting. It's about scoring. It's about putting that puck in the net. It's about putting that ball in the basket. It's about touchdowns. The team wins that has the most points at the end of every game, no matter what. That is like Bob Veal said, because he was the guy that made the comment, and vice versa.
Swap out Vasilevsky with an average goalie. Did the Lightning make it this far? I don't know.
No way. No, not this year. Not this year. First 2 years, they were really good. This year, no chance. They're just not as good as they were the first 2 times.
Okay, but they're also chance. They know how to win now, right?
Oh, that experience, coaching even,
absolutely
comes a long way. And and
you know what? It's going to be
still fairly young. Cernak, Ruda, they've got so much experience. Those guys have played better probably than people even expected when they're drafted.
I think this is going to be great. It's going to be kind of like the Giants built because it's going to be offense against defense. Because Colorado can score. They can score. Who's going to win?
When they want.
See it.
And Tampa will score when they want. That's
right. They can score when they have to. They score when they have to. That's a great team.
Mr. E, any espousement for the defense?
Well, I mean, my point on this, I think, we saw it in the 90s, with New Jersey, right? Defense absolutely won those cups. I think, maybe in the 2000s.
I can argue that though.
2010s. Yeah, you can say they had good forwards. They had Elias.
Yeah, and you know what? They were right there every year, but the years they actually had a better offense than the years they didn't win it is when they won it.
You know what? You need
everything. Was there the whole time. That's true.
That's true. Kip, you're absolutely dead on.
That is true.
Listen, to win a championship, you need everything. You can't be bad in any area in hockey.
I'm not. No.
Look, you can't be poor in any area to win a Stanley Cup.
No, I understand. I'm not blasting defense. I'm not. But the thing is, everybody else blasts offense, and I'm just trying to stick up for offense once in a while because everybody overlooks it.
You definitely are.
Yeah, I know.
No one
think
would.
of it this way. Think of it this in 2001, Colorado played the Devils, right?
Right.
And I bet my friend money, and I won money on it. You know what? Because I knew right away. I go, Brodeur. What's his name? Patrick Roy. Right. They crossed each other out because they're both great. Boom. Okay. Then who has the better
Forsberg was out.
Colorado did. Yeah, the offense, and they had a better offense, and they were the home ice. Once that game went 7, I knew. I'm like, I'm going to win that money.
Forsberg was out of that series. People don't remember. He was probably the best player in that series at that point in time. Probably the best player on the ice, and he was out of that series.
Right. It's still about this. Score. That's what it's about. And you know what? People don't get it, and I like to argue it because the whole world is so. It's almost like they're drugged out on defense. Dude, defense is everything. No, you still got to score. And you know what?
All right.
That's why defense is important because you got to score.
Yeah, but what about Calgary this year in the playoffs? They scored a lot. They couldn't.
Look, I'm not blasting D. You got to have some D. But you know what? You know who scored a lot too? Colorado, and you're in it.
What about the Islanders last year? Game 7, they played a spotless game. Two teams played pretty much a spotless game, and then on a shorthanded goal, Tampa Bay wins 1-0. Was that game won on offense, or was that game won on defense?
Not every game is one on one, but you know what? How many titles did Edmonton win, Rob, in a row?
3.
Yeah.
No, they never won 3 in a row.
They knocked off to do it the first time?
That thing went boom, 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 score. Correction of the record here. What is it? They didn't win 3 in a row?
Edmonton never won 3 in a row. That's why they're so great at the Islanders, who not only won 4 in a row, went to 5 straight finals, 19 straight series wins.
And I know they were the ones
they went to the conference final 9 out of 10 years. They beat the Oilers in 82 in the second round. A lot of people don't know that. Then they swept the Oilers in the finals in 1983. Gretzky did not have 1 goal in the 4 games. And then 84, they changed the playoff format. Instead of a 2-2-1-1-1, they went from a 2-3-2 like the NBA used to do. Thank God they changed it. And the Islanders won the first game. The Islanders won the first game, lost the second game to Coliseum. They split the first 2 games, and they never saw home ice again. Which till this day irks the Islander greats. They never got a chance.
I understand that because I'm a Celtic fan. We got screwed by that in '85 when Magic Johnson bitched and cried like a little girl. But yeah, you know what? Still, Gretzky was great in those guys.
Anyway, so they won 84.
And one thing about hockey, what did I say in the beginning? The home team is not quite as important as the other sports. So any team can win in hockey. Once you get the basketball, like game 6 and 7, I'm telling you, the next game the Celtics are going to win, but Golden State's going to win.
E-Kip, correct the record. What did they win?
Oilers won in 84. They won in 85. In 86, they did not win the cup. They lost game 7 in conference finals. 87, they won the cup. 88, they won the cup.
Wow. So
Summer of 88, they traded Gretzky. 89, they lost the Gretzky's Kings, I believe, in the first round. And then in 90, without Gretzky, Messier, they won the cup. So they won 84. Right? They won 84, 85, 87, 88, and 90. They
Mr.
never
You've been
won.
trying to chime in. What do you have to say, Mr. E?
Oh, I mean, I'm just sitting back and watching this. This is a great history.
That's why I think the Islander dynasty is better than the Oilers dynasty, because they won 4 in a row. They won 5 straight finals, while the Oilers, they get all the,
And with all due respect with your Islanders, you guys can still score too, outside of Billy Smith stopping everything. You guys score you can score, huh?
This year? No, they don't.
No, back then when you were winning.
Oh, they scored a ton. They had
right. See, that's what I'm saying.
I
understand Billy Smith and those guys were great. You're going,
but they also had a lockdown D too. Balance.
Yeah, but they had 3
Rob, but they had 3.
They had 3 holes.
Well, in this series, we'll see it on the ice. The thing,
that's what I'm saying.
The thing about the Lightning is that they are a very adaptable lineup. They can beat you in a million different ways, and they will adjust the way they play to do what they have to do to win. That's what most people are missing here. Defense has won them the two series because they had to shut down two elite offenses, and they've done that. And now they can shut down a third elite offense.
Right.
It's their adaptability that maybe goes under the radar, but is maybe one of the most important factors of the team has in terms of winning.
Look, this run has been completely different than the last two runs.
It's getting harder. It's harder.
Well, it's not only harder, it's that they don't have the same depth at forward that they had. So, they've had to adapt and play a more defensive counterattacking style, and that's worked out because they've locked down the offenses that have come against them. Yeah, sure, the Rangers did score a bunch of goals in games 1 and 2. And yeah, sure, Toronto scored a bunch of goals in that series. But when it came down to it, the Lightning were able to figure out what they needed to do to win those games.
And that's why you won 2 years in a row. That's why you're so good. And you know what? It's going to be interesting because can you do it a third time? Can you shut this team down? This team's the best offense you played.
I do think this is the best team that Tampa Bay has played so far.
Right.
They're the deepest team they've played. And they also bring something that no other team brings the entire league. And maybe hasn't brought to the league in quite some time. I mean, it's a shame that Kadri, I'd love for him to play in this series. He's one of the more underrated players in the league. Right now, we have 5 guaranteed Hall of Famers in this Cup final. Mm-hmm. McKinnon and McCarr, they're good enough. They're going to end up there. I know it's still pretty early in their career, especially McCarr. But Stamkos is a shoo-in, Hedman's a shoo-in, and Vasilevsky's going to find himself in, I can guarantee you. So we have 5 guarantees in the Hall of Fame in this series.
And Kucherov is probably close.
Nah, I'm not the biggest Kucherov fan. I mean, I think
Braden understandable.
Braden Point is their best forward in my book, and I think I've seen Kucherov make some mistakes. I haven't seen Braden Point make too many mistakes.
The thing with Kucherov is, he gets emotionally off his game. He can be taken off his game emotionally, and he is subject to overreacting.
Right.
That, and he does, some things that I think most other fan bases think are dirty. And I'll concede the fact that probably some of it is.
How good is Sergachev? He hasn't made an All-Star team yet, but he probably will. He's a really good player, right?
I don't know if he makes an All-Star team with Hedman on the team, period.
Right. Well, you know what? The All-Star game is a sham right now in the NHL. It really means nothing. They don't even have an East and the West, and they can't take more than 3 guys on a team, pretty much. So.
Well, and the thing is, Hedman will always,
be an All-Star.
Yeah, and he'll always be that guy because he's the number 1 defenseman on the Lightning. But
he's the number 1 defense in the league. I think he's the best defenseman in the league over the last 7 years. No question about it.
I think Sergachev, still makes mistakes on a fairly regular basis.
Sure.
But I think he's figured out the tools to make up for those mistakes as well.
He could play forward. He's almost like a forward out there sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes he makes the same mistakes that forward
as a forward.
Made.
Yeah.
It's
almost like him and Kucherov. They look identical at times on the ice.
I mean, I'll say that that's true to an extent, but I think that Sergachev brings a slightly different skill.
Of course, yeah. And he's a little bit bigger too. Yeah.
And he does tend to play physically when he needs to. He's not ever going to be a guy who's going to pound people, to death in the corner, but he'll lay a good check if he needs to. I think it's interesting to me that, he still sort of sits on the third pairing with the Lightning, but, he's behind Hedman and McDonough. What are you going to do in that situation?
Mystery, I'm curious. What's the pulse of the local fan base? What's the impression you're getting? Are they
that's
embracing the potential dynasty status? That's
it's like 50-50 here, right? So some people, feel really confident and feel like we're going to be a dynasty. We win this one, and then we go for our 4th after that. I think some people are a little more on the fence about it because they've looked at Colorado and what they've done to teams like Edmonton, and they're concerned. The thing is, Edmonton doesn't have Vasilevsky and doesn't have as deep of a top six in terms of defensive rotation.
Yep.
How many points did Florida finish with? Because I know they had a better record than everybody else.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
122 was it? We'll look it up.
I think Colorado had 122, but I thought Florida had more than that. But
okay, does anybody have anything more to add to the NHL, the finals, or anything before we go into our detailed predictions?
I want to touch base on something we talked about, how the the Islander Ranger rivalry being so great. However, they haven't played a playoff series in a while, and it seems like, and I even had people come up to me like at work, "Oh, did you see the Ranger game?" I didn't hear him talk about the Rangers all year. Now, "Oh, did you see the Ranger game?" And then they're like surprised that I would root against the Rangers. People, the casuals, and for me, it's like not even a question. If you're a diehard, or even just the Rangers are your third favorite team, the Islanders are your third favorite team, there's no way you can root for one another in a Final Four. No way.
No, it's one of the most bitter rivalries in all of sports.
Absolutely. You get to see it. And to say that I heard some Ranger fans say that the Islanders should root for them, and just a lot of craziness. And how about that fan that sucker punched, that lighting? That's one of the worst things that I've seen in a while. And that's the Rangers fan base for you. There's a lot of people like that. They're extremely cocky, and when the Rangers lose, that fan base, they get violent. It's the truth. It's the truth.
We know from direct experience.
When they lose, they get upset. They get
very upset, and they're very, very sore losers and get physical.
They're passionate, but they only make noise when the team is up or tied.
Yeah.
And if they lose, they
get quiet and you don't even hear about them.
Yeah.
So I think before we wrap, one thing I'd like to quickly go through is the teams that have lost to this point. Let's go through at least a couple of those and see if you're an armchair GM, what do you do?
Yeah.
Let's start with the Rangers, right? Because I think they have the most question marks.
Well, I know a lot about the Rangers off season. They have, first of all, the Rangers. People could say, "Oh, they're rebuilding and they have a great future," and that may be true. However, they're going to be in cap help pretty soon. Number two, they went in this year like they were a contender, like they went in to win the Stanley Cup. The moves that they made, the Toronto, Kopp, Mott, Braun, they made more moves than anybody at the deadline. So. I don't see how they sign Strome. I know he's best friends with Panarin. If they do sign him, they have Kreider long-term, Fox long-term, Panarin long-term, Zibanejad long-term, Shesterkin all long-term. They have to sign Miller. I mean, that has to be their main focus. He's there. In some ways, he might be better than Fox. He might be their stud defenseman for the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And if he's not a priority, and even if he is, he's going to get paid, and they're going to find them. If they're not smart, they're going to find themselves in some serious trouble. I would think for sure Strome is gone. I would think Kopp is going to go home to the Detroit area, Michigan. And I would think the Rangers sign Vetrano as a lethal shot who could score 30 goals a year. I would think they give him a nice, friendly, I think he's from the Northeast. I think they'd give him a 4-year deal. And I think they're going to end up losing Strome and Kopp, unless they just make a bad decision, which is what I'm hoping for, and they sign Strome or Kopp and lose Vetrano. But I don't see them losing Vetrano. I'd love to see Vetrano on the Islanders, but I think the Rangers are going to end up signing him and losing Strome and Kopp as well.
And here's the thing: I think Georgiev walks too.
Oh yeah. That's another casualty they'd probably lose. I don't know about Braun. They'll probably have back, and Mott. He's cheap enough where they could bring him back. He played he played some solid minutes in that fourth line. I wouldn't, any team would be happy to have someone like that.
I think Georgiev is a solid enough player to.
Oh, he's one of the better backs. No question about it. He's one of the better backs.
I think he can be a starter somewhere. The question is where.
Colorado again. I mean, one of those teams that really name your goalie pretty much every year. Probably should have never lost Varlamov to begin with.
Yeah, or let's even look at maybe Minnesota as a destination, or Calgary maybe.
Yeah, Minnesota's a team that really Bill Guerin's done unbelievable. I know they've lost in the first, always lose in the first round, but the way he transformed that team in a short period of time to make them what they are, he's done an unbelievable job in Minnesota. What do you think?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Minnesota's building towards something.
Yeah, so do I.
I think they're going to be a special team. I think it's going to take maybe 3 more years before we see them really turn the corner.
Perhaps
if everything goes right.
Yeah. Well, they finally had that superstar they never had, or since Gaborik.
Yeah.
And he's better than Gaborik, this guy. So,
thanks, Mr. Reed, for sending me. The Panthers had 122 points.
Yeah.
And Colorado had 119.
Yeah.
And what did Tampa have? What did you guys finish with?
Tampa finished with
108?
110.
110. Okay. That's a lot of points there.
That is a lot of points. Yeah. That is a lot of points.
But if you look the gap between the top and the bottom, in the East and the West, it was wider than it's ever been historically, as far as I'm aware. On a normal year, you get into the playoffs with 95 points. This year, the team that came in 8th in the East was at 100. So you're talking it took 5 more points to get into the playoffs than an average year this year.
It was an offensive year, by the way.
People I like that.
Like offense, this was
a
huge
good year for
offensive year in the NHL. This was the biggest. This might not counting the year after the lockout where they just gave everyone 8 power plays a game. After that long lockout in 04, they lost the entire year in 05. They came back in 06 and they just gave power plays to everyone. Not counting that year, this was probably the highest scoring year I've seen since probably about a 93, where you'd see, just some crazy games. I mean, so a 9-6 game in the postseason. You haven't seen that since forever. I don't even think in the 90s you'd see that. It was
What are
great.
your opinions of the TV coverage now that they switched network?
Oh, it's unbelievable. If you have Cablevision, let's say, ESPN 36, TNT 37, you're not going to channel 408 to find a hockey game. I think that's great for America to find a playoff game very easily. I don't love ESPN's coverage. It's much to be desired. It's not what it was 25 years ago. That's for sure.
It's really south.
Should be the main coverage. They do an outstanding job. They should have been the ones to have the
Say
final.
again when we missed
TNT
that.
does a great
TNT?
job. They're better than ESPN, yet ESPN is getting the finals because of ABC. I'm guessing the games will be what on ESPN?
Probably,
ABC?
yeah. Well, the NBA is on Channel 7, so the finals. But you know what? I worked at ESPN. It is really going downhill. You're right.
Oh, it's been going down for a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll agree completely with that, but I will say that it doesn't really matter where the coverage is because the Lightning are a Southern franchise, so they will never get respect anywhere. Every series.
If you keep winning, you will. A couple more. You get it.
How much more do they have to win?
Right. Keep winning.
Pat Maroon can't lose.
Like you or not, huh?
Pat Maroon can't lose. No one's talking about that.
If you're not respecting the Lightning after what they've done all these years, it's not just the two. They've been good for a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what to tell you.
They're so similar that Islanders teams that lost in the conference finals in 75, 76, 77, had the best record in the league in 79, lost to the Rangers in the conference finals because goaltending in 79. They had like those Islander teams. They had a lot of horrible moments in the playoffs, whether it would be the first round or the third round, losing game 7 to the Caps in 2018 in the conference finals at home. And they got swept the following year when no one expected them, for something like that to happen. It was such a crazy series. They lost 4-0 in Columbus. No one expected that. And like the Islanders, it's just it really just made them stronger. And then now they're afraid to lose. And that's why that's probably why they're going to end up winning their third straight Stanley Cup. And I think they're going to do it in 7 games on the road. Vasilevsky's going to win the Conn Smythe.
Okay, Mr. Reed. I shouldn't ask you this, Mr. Reed, but I mean, I know who want to win. Who do you think? How you think they're going to win, and by how much?
Okay, so Lightning in 6. Total series goals probably will wind up being something like 38 goals combined. Probably a little bit of an edge there for Colorado, maybe in the early games.
You think you can win in Game 7 if it went to that?
Oh yeah,
that'd be really hard. I think you can. I don't know if you will. That's hard.
Look, Vasilevsky in closeout games. Let's run through this stat because everybody's talking.
I'm sure we will.
But his save percentage is over 95%. He has lost none of them in the past number of years. When it comes down to it, he's gotten a lot of shutouts. So like he's gotten shutouts in 6 of 8, something like that. Right. You go to Game 7 against Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky is going to turn on his God mode, and there will be no goals.
And then game tomorrow, Game 1 is on ABC. By the way, I just checked. Okay. It's on it.
Right. Okay.
As far as MVP goes. I think for this run, Stamkos is
yes, he's the only one who could win it besides Vasilevsky.
It's either Vasilevsky or Stamkos.
Correct.
Stamkos.
Correct.
Just on the fact that he's basically taken the team on his back and willed them.
Oh yes, he has. He really has. On the offensive front, he's really put the team on his back for sure.
Okay, Rob.
First run, he really didn't have a lot of purpose in that first run.
Well, that first run, he was injured, so he gets into one game 3 in the finals, plays like 2 minutes and scores a goal, right? I mean, that was a huge moment in that series. That was what really energized the Lightning, in that series.
This was a great series. This was a great season for Stamkos. It's probably one of his better years in a while, or in the NHL. It's probably one of his better years this year. Stamkos, he had to reinvent himself, and he has.
Well, and the thing is, he's not just doing it offensively, right? He's turned into a real leader. If there's a captain, that I want in the NHL right now, it's Stamkos. I mean, he's the guy that'll take whatever team it is and teach them what they need to do.
And don't overlook Perry. Corey Perry's been in Cup Finals the 2 previous years against the Tampa Bay Lightning. No one's talking about that. He was on the Dallas Stars and Montreal Canadiens. He's a guy who's in the league forever. He won the Cup as a rookie. He's a heart and soul player, a leader. He wants that Cup bad. Yeah,
well, the thing is, he scored 20 goals this year. Out of a guy who most people thought was dead and not going to be able to produce anything. Put up a 20-goal season. Let's not forget that.
And Paul, I mean, how do you not love him? How do you not love one?
Yeah, he is definitely an effort guy, and I love seeing the effort every shift.
Rob, who do you think is going to win?
So, before I go into my prediction, I do have to inform everyone that in comparison to last year, my predictions have been god awful in 2022. I'm not sure I've gotten any right, Bob. So that's what I get for kind of gloating after last year. So take it for what it's worth. I see the Lightning in a situation where they will go into God mode. I see the Avalanche coming in rusty. Yeah, the crowd will be fired up, but I see the Lightning pouncing on them right away, burying them in the Game 1. That'll set the tone. And the Lightning will sweep away.
Really?
On the way to their third straight Stanley Cup championship.
Yeah. So it's going to be like the Red Wings versus the Devils in
just 95. Like the last 2 years, the cup was decided in the East, and I'm going with that for a third.
Yeah, I can't see it's a sweep because Colorado can just score too much.
95 Devils. Remember them?
Well, that's true because Detroit had a great offense.
Yeah,
but you know what? I don't see that this time. I think it's going to be really, really close, and it's just going to come down. I think I'm leaning Tampa Bay because they're experienced. They won 2 years in a row. They're great, and you know, a lot of people are high on Colorado. When people are high on one team, the one thing I learned in sports, don't go that way.
Yeah,
because there are more times than not. But you know, I think it's going to be close. It can go either way, but I'm leaning Colorado. I'm sorry, Tampa Bay. I'm picking Tampa Bay. So,
you sure you want to go Colorado?
No, I'm
Slip
picking
there, buddy.
Yeah, it was a mistake. That was an honest mistake.
Closing thoughts, final things to share, gentlemen.
Yeah, what the heck are the Bruins doing? Firing the coach? We need to get rid of the ownership and the general manager.
Yeah,
and I was right about and I was right about Rask. That guy was a piece of crap. You never won with him. God bless Tim Thomas.
But you have superstars. You have two superstars in Marchand and Pasternak, and you have McAvoy.
Oh yeah, Pasternak.
So how do you rebuild? You can't rebuild. You can retool. Are the Bruins going to miss the playoffs this year for the first time, like in 137
years? They may, because God only knows who we're going to have as a coach. I mean, we don't even know.
Yeah, Cassidy's one of my favorite coaches.
Well, I have some news on the Cassidy front. I don't
Vegas.
know
He went to Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas. Yeah.
You went to Vegas?
Wait, I hate Vegas. They're like the new Rangers of the West.
Oh, they're weak. They're over. My friends in Vegas, but I can't stand them.
I can't stand Vegas.
Either. But I mean,
it will be fun to go to Vegas Islanders game, won't it?
Well, out there it will.
Absolutely.
Out there it will. Now I got a question for you guys. What happened to the Islanders? Rob and E-Kip. You guys were
no, they're too old. They're too old.
Huh?
They're too old. They're too old. They didn't change up their team like I wanted the last 3 years. Get young like the Rangers did. They threw the same players out. I also think that team's been together for so long, a lot of those guys. They lost that game to Tampa Bay. It crushed them. It was like this was the year for them. Without Lee even, but he was a big force that year during the regular season. And his leadership, I guess, just in the room. I think they really felt like they were going to beat Tampa Bay and win the cup that year. And it didn't happen. I think it really gave them a hangover. But I really think the biggest thing is the offseason moves of Chara. I thought he'd be a good 7th, 8th defenseman. Not a guy you put in there 70 games. He can't be that player. So right there, they were poor defensively, and he couldn't move the puck up. So their defense really took a hit this year. And as a result of not being able to move the puck up, they couldn't score for anything, especially the first half of the year. So it was a brutal year. I guess their goaltending, other than maybe a couple of weeks in January, was outstanding. And Pulak was hurt for 3 months. He broke his foot. That was a big loss for them in the early part. But again, my biggest thing is they didn't bring in the right guys in the offseason. Team got too old. They needed to trade off some older guys like Bailey and afford to lose a guy like Matt Martin, perhaps, even though he's a fan favorite. You have to change up your team in the NHL. You can't go the same roster. Even the Tampa Bay Lightning, they don't have the exact same team as last year. I know cap casualties have a big reason to do that, a big reason for that, but you got to switch things up. You can't throw out old legs every year. You just can't.
That's true.
I guess that's a good point. You compare like the moves that the Islanders made in the offseason, to the moves that the Lightning made in the offseason. The Lightning acquired bottom 6 guys to fill roles from the people that left. It was a downgrade a little bit, but
right, Bellemare, right.
Yeah, but Belmar kills penalties. He's a solid player. Perry was an excellent signing, great find. And the 2 kids that made the roster, they were traded for Hagel, and I think Hagel probably slots into the top 6 next year. I think I think if you compare that to like what the Islanders did, where they got older in the offseason, right? They didn't bring in character guys to fill the roles of the guys that left, and maybe it was because the guys to replace the guys that left weren't available. But it just seems like there was some poor talent evaluation there.
Could you see Lou Lamoriello? Could you see this happening where Patrick Kane says, I want to go someplace else. You guys, they're taking a while to get that team going in Chicago. He's got 1 year left.
That could be.
Could you see Lou Lamoriello pulling a move like that and getting that winger or just a player to play with Barzell? Could you see something like that?
He's done it before with New Jersey and with Toronto, so I don't see it as being impossible. It kind of depends on how he feels, because Kane is a veteran. It probably is the kind of shakeup that would make a big difference for the Islanders. The question is, giving up the assets to pull that off, right? Are the Islanders looking at mortgaging their future to do that?
They have a very young player. You might see him this year. Might light up the league. Maybe not this year, but in a year. A guy named Ratty really has a lot of offensive ability. Who they got late in the draft, later than people thought. He was actually slotted in the top 10 at one point. I think he got hurt his last year, something. And he wasn't even in the first round, and the Islanders came in and got him. If he's a top talent in that draft, that changes things for the Islanders. If they can get a player like that unexpectedly, kind of a gem, changes things for them the next couple seasons, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, what do you think about? I'm sorry, I was going to ask Rob what he thought about the Islanders. I want to get him in.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's fine. I don't have really anything more to add. I mean, that really covers it. I just don't. I'd like to see us get a top goalie.
Oh, there you go.
I'm very hopeful for Syracuse. I think the bottom fell out.
How many more years for Boeheim? How many more years?
I don't know, honestly. I mean,
now that his kids graduated, he might not be around much longer.
I don't know. I maybe he goes till he's 80. Maybe he goes one more year. I really don't think we can know that. But I do know our football program has an elite staff after the head coach. So on both sides of the ball. And we do have, in my opinion, one of, if not the best running backs in the country, and arguably the best running quarterback. He needs to prove his arm, running quarterback in the country. Oh, our running back's top. Look him up, Sean Tucker.
I'd love to go to a game in Syracuse. I've never been to the Dome.
And the schedule is very tough this year. We got Purdue coming to the Dome. We got Notre Dame coming to the Dome. You got Florida State coming to the Dome. So, we the Clemson on the road. So it's a tough schedule, but I think our lacrosse program bottomed out. It's going to be great next year. I think next year is going to be really good for Syracuse sports. They're renovating the seating, further renovations for the Dome. I'm very positive for the future.
You said you have a running quarterback, and in college that works. As long as it's not pro, you're good. So you got a shot. That could work.
But now we have a really good offensive coaching staff. And I love our O-line coach. Our offensive coordinator is proven. The quarterback's coach is proven. Third best offense in the country. So, yeah, go Cuse. I'm very optimistic, and I'm just going to enjoy my summer. Looking forward to it.
How about your basketball team? How are they looking?
We got a really good recruiting class. I think we'll make the tournament.
We lost a lot of players. They decided to go pro, but we did get the number one kid coming out of high school. He is supposed to be like they're calling him Jordan number 2. So
we
will UCLA
definitely get into the college previews
down the road.
No doubt about as summer goes on, Bob. But I just want to say, Mr. E, before you go, anything to add, anything to impart upon the audience as we close the show? Well, we may have lost him, but that's okay. Grateful to have Mr. E and E-Kip go and give us that really detailed breakdown of what's going on in the NHL, and we look forward to having them come back again. Like, share, and subscribe, folks. We got more shows coming. We're going to be back live Friday. More guests will come, and the show must and will go on. So with that, signing off for the Sports Show with Bob Spino. This is Rob.
This is Bob. Bye, everybody.